Welcome to The Rewrite. This is the podcast where we basically just take a film that's popular and we just rewrite it to, how we would have liked to see it. So, yeah, today we're doing The Force Awakens, the best Star Wars film that we all love.
I think we can all admit that The Force Awakens, whilst it has its problems, is a fairly enjoyable film.
Yeah, it's not awful.
So let's completely ruin it with our fan wanky bollocks.
Yeah, decent.
For me, that opening is pretty well done for setting up the simple stakes of what's going on. My biggest change would be the fact instead of coming out of these massive carriers and a Star Destroyer overhead, we have them coming from these land vehicles, almost crawling over like a sandcrawler-esque machine.
Okay.
Opens up and these stormtroopers come out, but their armor's it's a bit beaten, it's a bit worn. It's clear that they've got old Empire tech that they're using as their iconography. To make them a bit more terrorist-esque, because with the original trilogy and the prequels, they were very much it was meant to be Germany during the war, the 30s to 40s era of Nazism, but today, the threats to us are a lot less obvious and they're a lot more brutal. So you got to reflect that within the story. Because Star Wars has always really been a sci-fi adaptation of World War One and World War Two, so really you got to work that in somehow.
Right. Yeah.
So just update it with how warfare's updated.
Okay.
So instead of making the First Order this big powerful threat that's come out of literally nowhere, whilst that is an interesting angle to take, I do believe taking the angle of they're basically extremists who are funding this out of their own pocket kind of thing.
Sort of terrorism, not
Yeah,
terrorist group.
make them a bit more, and that would explain them differ them from the Empire, make them a bit more brutal. Maybe during this raiding of the village scene, we see them taking people out on the streets. You cut away before you hear that someone gets shot. So it's a lot more brutal than the original opening where they kind of just it's still quite brutal. There's a firing sword and they kill everyone in the village. But it's
Not brutal enough.
we get into that 12 that Revenge of the Sith territory where the age rating went up for the first time in Star Wars.
Right.
There was a more brutal edge to it because it's
Yeah.
that descent into darkness.
All right. Okay.
Reflect that again.
Fair. So, how would you like? So, I think the internet, or people who watch the film, not just the internet, but they had an issue with Jakku being another sand planet.
Yeah.
What would you do to change the scenery? What would you like?
I
Or
would
would you?
I would keep it Sand Planet because I think that works for the kind of narrative I'm trying to structure here of this terrorist organization, because it's reflecting places like Israel and that kind of thing where these terrorist cells do work out of deserts.
Right.
Maybe do something just color the sand differently, make it orange or something, make it red. Just differ it up a bit.
Okay.
So,
Like a little alien
visually, because that's the simple thing you can do.
Yeah.
In any sci-fi thing, you just flip the color scheme and it makes it look instantly more alien.
Yeah.
Just by doing that.
Fair. So,
So.
yeah,
what's
so I
your
think
idea?
with mine, I don't really have an issue with the Force Awakens opening, like you said. I don't think I'll change it too much at all. The only things I'll change with it would be how it happens. Kind of I'd keep it the same. Bunch of troopers come in, take down the village. Like you said, I would do a colour change with the sand or sky or something, just to make it look that more alien, that more kind of different. Because I don't want it to be just another sand planet. But I think when I was thinking about it, I was thinking of changing the entire planet to something like a jungle or an ice planet or something, but that wouldn't work well with how it doesn't show. I think the fact it's a desert, it's harsh and it's stuff like that makes it better for people like Rey, show them as a character who's braved it all, kind of showing what they're living and what they're growing up in.
Yeah.
So I couldn't change it, the scenery at all. I'd keep it.
There is that edge that's added to a desert scenery because it's quite hospitable.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a hostile.
We
clear hostile.
know how hospitable it is.
Yeah, maybe.
Professionalism at its finest, gentlemen.
Maybe maybe if you want to do it hostile, you'd do sandstorms and things.
Yeah. Or just I don't know, creatures or something.
Like Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. You
they're all-
just make it a bit make a sandstorm, make it look a bit more brutal.
Like it looks
Like
you
maybe
can't
you
live
have
there,
everyone-
Really.
Yeah, have everyone dressed like Rey does in the opening when they
Yeah.
all have goggles and they stuff covering their faces.
Like Ray actually
Yeah.
does. She
Yeah.
has the
like she has it, but it seems more like it's for like aesthetic purposes.
Yeah, just
Maybe-
sell more toys really. Like, oh
Yeah.
look, Ray with a mask.
That differs it from Tatooine as well. If you have it be like a lot more stormy,
Yeah.
perhaps like there's like winds constantly.
Yeah.
It adds that like edge to it.
Yeah, so that's the environment, I guess, like that they're in. But I'll just change that. I'll change how it goes down, as in Finn's character more. So obviously it's going to be a bit more into character rather than just Jakku, but that's all I say. Like, I'll just change Finn and the scenery, really.
I think we'll discuss that a
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
more when we discuss the characters
So,
themselves.
so I would.
Yeah. So how would you open it, Tom?
With the opening, I think I'd maybe make it more of like a slum area. I don't know, but not like a Coruscant city.
Right.
Because I think if they were looking for someone would see the person if it was a city, because there's so many people around them. So it'd probably be like a slum area where there's not any really important people or anything. And yeah, you could have them raid just this innocent slum land.
So still a desert. Still
Yeah.
a desert. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like a hostile type
Yeah,
of planet, whether it be an ice desert or a sun desert type of thing. It can be either or.
Okay. So I think before we go any further with this, we should set up like each of us have clearly different visions for this.
Yeah.
What are our like the differs in our stakes and like what changes here? Like so like narrative wise, where is it going to start? Where's it going to end? What is driving our plot, like the MacGuffin or whatever?
Right. Okay. So,
So,
do you want me
Tom, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So the main thing for the driving plot for mine is still retaining the finding Luke, and it'll be found through artifacts or things related to him that certain characters can use the Force to sense where he is through them. That's the main.
So you're going to play the Force into it a lot more.
Yeah.
So no map.
Yeah,
No map.
yeah, no map though.
Good.
The artifacts or just his lightsaber from.
So it's that like idea from the original script where like Kylo's like hunting artifacts and kind of.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Okay. No.
Well, I'll do pretty much the same, except I would use his lightsaber more, because that's the way of putting his lightsaber back into it, right? Without going like in the original one, just going to Maz's castle and whoa, she's got a lightsaber. That's crazy. Whoa.
So you're
like-
trying to remove some of that convenience. from
Yes,
the
and I'll make it
original
obviously the green lightsaber, the one used in Return of the Jedi, because that makes more sense. Like,
Mm.
Yeah.
or the blue one. It's not even explained why there's a blue one.
Yeah.
So I'd use the green one. I'd use it more like I'd like to dive more into Leia's character of the Force as well. So the story being that they're looking for the artifact, well, being the lightsaber, to kind of like as kind of a connection between Leia and Luke
Yeah.
with the Force. So yeah, that's what I do. No map, because the map just doesn't make sense at all. Why would he put?
If he didn't want to be found,
yeah,
why would he make a
why would he
map?
make a map, and why would he put it in his droid and then make a
So
separate
in
part?
all our stories, is Luke missing? Because he definitely
Yeah.
is in mine.
Is he in yours too?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So we'll still opening it. Like,
Yeah. So main thing, they're looking for Luke still.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
What do you think makes that such a, like an effective like plot point? 'Cause
I think it's a way of kind of like,
it's changing the status quo in probably the best way. Because everyone expects like Luke's going to be in it at some point.
Yeah.
Like you just start that title call with Luke is missing.
I think it benefits the trilogy as a whole as well, because if you do you start the trilogy off with Luke, then you're not really excited for the next two films, because you've sort of seen him, you've seen Han, you've seen Leia, and all of them do their thing, and then you just got two more films of that, or
Yes.
they then die, and then
Yeah.
you don't get it. Whereas if it all builds up then to the finale, which it should have done, then it would have been far more satisfying.
With mine, I've decided it's still like a bit of a MacGuffin-y thing, a bit like the map, but with mine they're after this like compass, which effectively like leads them towards where these like the strongest presence of like forces.
Yeah.
It's said that like people say, oh, Luke went to find the first Jedi temple. That's what
Yeah.
like certain like people have said over the time. Like they go to a planet and meet one of the like someone like Mars who's like, well, yeah, Luke told me this. She
Yeah.
knew him.
Mm.
And then like so that it's that idea that they're trying to get to where the Force is strongest
Right,
to
yeah.
find Luke. So it's that
Yeah.
like with Tom's script, it's that running narrative of the Force. It's trying to bring them like the mystique back into the Force, because the
Mhm.
prequels
Yeah.
kind of lost that with the introduction of stuff like midichlorians and everything.
Getting too sciencey.
Yeah, it's trying to move away from the science angle, move more back
Yeah,
into the
back to
like
the-
space wizard
Yeah.
kind of thing.
right, yeah.
So should we start with the characters?
So like in the first scene, but if you go from the
Yeah.
first scene, we'll just discuss it
So
all together.
we'll take a character.
Take a
What we'll
character
do in
and
this
where
part
they
is
go.
take a character and discuss where they go
Where
through
they
the
go,
narrative,
where
they
and
go.
what their character is.
Yeah.
So I think we should start with Kylo.
Oh, right,
Okay.
yeah.
It's a different starting point, but I think it's important to
Yeah.
lay down where the
He's the
antagonist is.
Skywalker of this trilogy.
So, Tom, do you want to start with Kylo?
Yeah. Well, Kylo will still have his backstory of being one of the Jedi students with Luke, and will betray him after for personal reasons, because he won't like Luke or his dad or his mum, because they're the three biggest celebrities of the galaxy, and because of that, and doing all the politics and things for the New Republic, they wouldn't have had time for him, and because of that, they've sort of left him to his own devices.
So, in
And-
yours, it's less so Snoke corrupting
Yeah,
him,
and I
it's
think
more himself.
him then finding out who his granddad is, Darth Vader, in that he'll be thinking of that.
Is
behind-
that the
behind
kind of
those
thing
three.
that like just sends him over the edge?
Yeah,
as it were,
yeah.
like
Is
breaking
that
point?
he looks to his grandfather as his hero rather than his parents or uncle, and that then means that he goes and betrays Luke, does all the thing to the temple, and is then after Luke, Han, and Leia for revenge on what they've done to him as a kid.
So, in yours, is he the leader of the First Order? then,
He
or
is the
whatever
leader
is
of the First Order, and I don't have Snoke.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, what are you now?
Well, me, I think like it's important to keep like I think with Star Wars, it's important to keep the Sith.
Mm.
So obviously, like through like the Old Republic and all that onwards, the Sith have always survived. They've always found a way to survive in that through all that. I think it's important to keep that, like, keep it as well as the Jedi. So having I don't know, like Kylo and Snoke as Sith rather than Kylo.
It's never directly stated in
Exactly,
the
yeah.
narrative what they are.
Yeah.
you
So
try
in
to
this one
keep
they
that,
would
like,
be.
Basics,
Yeah. So like, I think it's like makes it easier as well for like people to understand as well. Like,
Mm.
like if you just got the two Sith and all that,
It's just the status quo kind
Yeah,
of thing. It's set
and
down.
obviously I think it's good that showing how vulnerable people can be to the dark side.
Mm.
It helps like drive that drive that point, because you got Snoke, who's corrupted, like a Skywalker. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So someone it shows kind of like how dangerous and how powerful it actually is. So I think it's good to have him corrupted still. And yeah, kind of like thinking like Snoke's kind of like more of a father figure to him, rather than like Han. So he's kind of got
So he became like a surrogate father to him,
yeah.
effectively,
So
and
that's where his hatred comes
So,
from. His
so
dad.
you're adding that like layer to their dynamics. In
Yeah.
the original, it's very much just vaguely Snoke corrupted him,
Yeah.
and we never really like understand
Yeah.
why or how he joined Snoke.
But with
just that it
this, like,
happened.
it gives him a reason to hate Han
Mm.
Solo as well, rather than just like Snoke putting in his head that he hates him. It's kind of like Han didn't give him the attention. Because let's be honest, I think it's like Han's quite a complicated character, so I think it's good that it's kind of he doesn't know how to be a father.
Yeah.
Because like would he know?
Well,
with
yeah,
the way,
exactly. With the way he was raised, like he was raised without a father himself. So
Yeah.
he's playing into that, like playing into the weaknesses
Exactly,
of the
yeah.
characters and what we'd expect from that.
Yeah, so it's Kylo just being weak and being corrupted.
Mm.
So how would you?
With mine, Kylo is still a Force user, but he's neither dark or light.
Right.
And to reflect this, like his blade isn't red; it's white.
Okay. Yeah.
In mine, it's less so the fact he wants to he doesn't want to invade the galaxy particularly. He wants to kill every other Force user. In mine, he has some twisted thoughts that by killing everyone else, it will somehow make him stronger, because in his eyes it's like, well, if I kill everyone else, there's more Force to go around.
Mhm.
See, it's like this idea that he has like a warped perspective on the Force and life as a whole.
Right. Okay.
But this isn't like, it hasn't come from nowhere. So I still have Snoke,
Yeah.
but in mine, Snoke is definitely much more of like he's more of a corruptive force. But in mine, he's also not real.
Okay.
In mine, Snoke is simply a figment of Kylo's
Kylo's, yeah,
imagination
yeah.
that he uses to justify what he does.
Right. Yeah.
He to make himself seem the victim.
Yeah.
Even though from everyone else, like his parents know he's completely gone. He's completely fucking lost it.
Yeah.
I've got to stop swearing. It's really bad.
Bleep it out.
Yeah. No. So you have Snoke is this amalgamation of all his hate and his fear and his anger.
Yeah.
Brought on by his uncle, and like the idea, cause he saw how powerful his uncle was, and he knew how powerful his grandfather was, and he's like, the only way I can get to that level is 'cause he feels inadequate. So he feels like he has to kill other people to justify his adequacy, his own inadequacy,
Right.
like his own insecurities about himself.
Right. Okay.
So, so that's that's a pure point of his character, but this this also leads into a more brutal character than the one we see in the films. The one
Yeah.
we see in the films is a bit more whiny, He's a bit more like he's a bit more like Anakin we meet him in Attack of the Clones.
Right.
Like he's angry, but he doesn't have focus.
Yeah.
It's the thing Snoke keeps on saying to him in Force Awakens. But here he's more like he's purely corrupted. So he's just pure evil, and he's justifying it through these thoughts and these feelings, and like the mirage of like he's brainwashed a group of people into following him somehow on this like fool's crusade effectively. And like the First Order is effectively built off the back of this like idea of like purity, but he's really just using it as a cover to his own ends. Like he doesn't care who wins this war. He just kind of joined, and he's effectively taken control by force, just so he has his own power, his own force to help him achieve his own goals.
Yeah.
So it's still like the key themes of the dark side are there, and it's clear that he's being warped by that in some way, but it's not completely like he's not a Sith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So
What
like,
do we want to do next?
I think Finn, obviously, because like
Yeah.
we're going for the people at the start. We've got Kylo, we've got Finn. So I think you want to start that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just keep
You-
going.
I'll start that. Okay, so Finn, I think it's important to show that because we're told in the Force Awakens that he's stormtroopers. They grow up in it. They're taken away from their families. They grow up training. They grow up just following these orders. They're grown to be soldiers to follow Kylo and that and Snoke and the First Order. So I think it's important to show that this character has had that. Because I think like, in the original one, he's kind of more of a comic relief character. He's more of a like. I don't feel like he was ever a soldier. He's just kind of
No, you don't get that like
No, you don't.
feeling across. From
like you're told he's been trained. You're told he grew up. He's been in this the First Order his whole life. But you're like, has he? Has he actually? And then it's revealed that he's the janitor as well. So that was hilarious. That was funny. But I think it's good to show conflicts in this character. So I think what I'll do is with him, he'd follow the orders. He'd do some unthinkable stuff. He'd shoot people. He'd join in on this attack on the village. But I think that will like scar him in a way. Like he's just done something which he knows is wrong, and then he starts to see that he's the only one thinking this. Like everyone around him, all the other stormtroopers, kind of like going along with it. They have no question about it. So he's kind of like starting to question himself as a person. Like, I've been training with this. I'm the only one that's got an issue with this. Like, he's very conflicted in that. And also, you can have like some kind of like PTSD like symptoms where because of the guilt and that of what he's doing, it's just it's making his character more.
Yeah. Well, more believable.
Yeah, more believable.
human.
Like
Yeah.
especially if he's helped the First Order. Like he wants to help the galaxy or something. Like he wants to is it like repent? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
He wants to repent for like all the actions that he's done. All the repent for his sins. Kind of like do good to weigh out the bad he's done. So yeah, then that would lead into freeing Poe.
Okay.
So
Tom, what's Finn in yours?
Finn in mine is First Order trooper, a stormtrooper who is part of this squadron who is led by Phasma and follows Kylo through the film, and as he sees the heroes of the story, he begins to rethink what he's doing. So it's instead of like straight away in the first 5 minutes, oh, I'm going to change. It's a bit more. It's longer, and it takes the whole most of the film, probably to the end of the second act, for him to finally change. And he tries to persuade some of his squad members to change as well. And when that happens, when he is able to sort of get to them, and they realise what's right, they sort of. They pay the consequences for that by Phasma finding out and taking out some of them.
oh right, yeah.
But but Finn would he wouldn't be the comic relief of the film because I don't understand why he is.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
He's
That's
the one
what it
who's got the most likelihood of having trauma or things.
Yeah.
So why on earth he's popping jokes out every 5 seconds makes no sense to
No,
me. But
no.
So he'd be a bit more serious, and he'd change much later on, really.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So, with my version of this script, Finn's the main character and the Force user of this script,
Right.
which does take a bit away from Rey, but I'll cover that later. This is here. he starts off as this pure radical, following Kylo, and then through like over eavesdropping, going somewhere he shouldn't have, he finds out like how twisted Kylo is, and how he's kind of like he's not doing this for the same reasons he is, like because it's still like the First Order still is the mirage of wanting to bring order and unity to the galaxy, but it really Kylo's only like he finds out Kylo's only using it as a puppet, really, like a mirage to really just get what he wants at the end of the day, which is complete control over the Force and like everything else. So he finds out like this like corrupted force is at the core of this like thing he's believed in his whole life effectively. This completely shatters his worldview, and that like when he goes out on his first mission, he runs, and we have like a little chase sequence with the rest of the stormtroopers where they're trying to go after him. He loses them, and then over the course of the film, we see his progression from this radical to like a Force user to rival Kylo, like someone who's come out of Kylo's own midst. He's through this mirage, this fraud. Kylo's created his own worst enemy, and like we have like he's more like Kyle Marek from the Legend stuff, who was an ex-stormtrooper, became a bounty hunter, became a Force user, and that like Jedi angle with spinning that a bit, having be like because like the Jedi don't exist here. They haven't existed for a good few years. So he's more like he leans into his anger, his hate a bit more, but he's still on the like heroic side, the like side of good. Yeah. Simply for the like a bit like Kylo in a way, reflecting that how Kylo's really only with the First Order as a means to an end. He's only really with the Resistance because they're fighting against the First Order. Yeah. And now he sees like what's truly wrong with the First Order, and like he joins them to fight the First Order. But over the narrative, that we see him become a better person, we see him warm up to characters like Poe, and then learn basically to have a moral center and have a moral code. And this is how we like over the progression of the story, we see him go from a like lost trooper effectively to a Jedi. And like that's why at the end of the narrative, he's the one who's like shown the way to Skywalker.
Right. Yeah.
So I think next, the obvious one is to go into Rey.
Okay.
It's going to be a bit of a difficult character to cover for me in particular, but
right.
So Tom, you want to start with Rey?
Yeah. So my version of Rey would be, she is a former student of Luke's before the massacre of the temple.
Okay, so she's not a scavenger in yours then?
No,
she's nobody.
Yeah, and she, so she's the only other survivor besides Luke of Ben's massacre of the temple, and is one of the leaders or one of the head-ups in the resistance under Han and Leia, who is off to find these artifacts or the lightsaber or whatever to find Luke, and so she sort of comes in and helps out with Poe and eventually Finn, and by the end of the film she's able to have a showdown with Kylo to sort of get her own revenge on him for what she's done to her, which is, destroy a whole sort of early adulthood, and all of that, and sort of get revenge for Luke, even though we find out that Luke in The Last Jedi is a little bit different to probably what she thinks he'll be, like what his reaction is. So it's showing that like the difference in reaction to that event. Yeah. Luke's version, where he sort of goes into hiding and doesn't want to fight anymore, he's sort of given up and everything, and then Rey's the opposite of that, who wants to go and get revenge on him, and stuff, which could then possibly for the sequels make it seem like she could go to the dark side of the or something. But yeah.
Alright.
That's what I'd do with Rey.
Right, I think what I'd do is I'd keep her as a scavenger, as like a nobody on Jakku, because I didn't have an issue with that. Mm-hmm. I think I did have issues with is kind of her, the fact she's without flaw. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a character flaw.
Yeah, like she's a good pilot. She's a good fighter, which obviously I don't have an issue with that, because obviously if she's grown up on this planet where like you got to fend for yourself and be like I think that's realistic. She's a good fighter.
It's more of a case of like anyone would find it hard to identify with a character who like simply has no flaws.
No, exactly, yeah.
It's the reason the prequels were so like jarring to some people, because like in those films, both the heroes and villains have no morals. Yeah. There's no moral code. Mace Windu, he's a dick. Sidious, he's a dick. Like there's no difference between anyone. like the villains are just as bad as the heroes
Right. Yeah.
because the Jedi are arrogant and the Sith are overconfident.
Yeah.
So it's trying to find that actual character in the characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And like, what I do with that is kind of like, obviously, I give her, you know, when it comes to stuff like piloting and that, she's gonna pick on it. Obviously, like get them out there. But I think it's not good to show that because she should just do it straight away. Like she's like, you know, a natural pilot and all that. Stuff like lightsaber training. I think I'd have like little instances where she's kind of like training with Luke's lightsaber just to kind of get a feel of it, so it makes sense if she does fight Kylo.
Or like we see in New Hope with Luke,
Yeah, yeah.
like the ball droid.
Yeah, but but I wouldn't focus scenes on that. I think I'll just put it in the background just to show that it's there. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't focus on her training because like I think I keep obviously a Force connection. I'd keep that. I think I'll make it kind of a thing that she knows she has,
Yeah.
but kind of like doesn't know what to do with it. Kind of like hides it away from people because if the Jedi don't exist and the legend and that, she doesn't want to kind of reveal it because she doesn't want anything from that. She doesn't want to like be either hunted or, you know, she doesn't want attention from that. She just wants to carry on with her life, you know, do all that sorts. I'd make her, obviously, like, I think it's important so that like she's a strong female main role, but I wouldn't do it in the way where everything's in your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you've got Finn trying to hold her hand to take her away, and she's like, "No, stop doing that. I can handle myself and all that."
Just
But
not write it as
I wouldn't.
poorly.
Yeah, exactly. If I was going to do it, I'll do it in a way where it's less like in your face, kind of like
Yeah.
shows she can do it. It doesn't have to be a big deal either, because why should it be a big deal?
Mm.
Why should it be a big deal that a female role is the main character? They can do that. Like you should.
The more you treat it like it's a normal
exactly.
thing, the more people are going to just accept it.
I've got to be careful how I'm wording this.
Oh yeah,
because
no,
obviously,
see, it's very easy with this modern age where you
Yeah.
have like the pure like there are people out there who
Yeah.
do actively hate these characters
just because of their gender, which is just
which is stupid, obviously. But it's like at the same time, there has to be a point where you sit back and realise that some of these characters just aren't that well written. I would say that for a lot of the male characters on the
Oh, yeah,
sequel
of course,
trilogy as well,
of course,
like
yeah.
Poe as well, incredibly underdeveloped.
Yeah.
BB-8, like even though he's technically not a character, a bit like it's like R2 though. He was still a character within
Yeah.
himself. Like he was the one we spent the first like 30 minutes of New Hope with. C-3PO and R2 were on a narrative through line.
Yeah.
BB-8 just doesn't have that sticking.
No. So like, it's important like she's written as obviously a well character, someone people relate to. So obviously I'll keep her obviously as the main strong. You know, it's important to do that, but not so much as, look guys, can you believe it? We did this. Like we got a main role, like, a male female role. Like look at us guys. We all that. Just leave it. It is what it is. It's great. Just you don't have to force it because it shouldn't be forced. It should be natural and people should accept that.
Yeah.
So I'd leave that. I'd let all the sorts, all the stuff that kind of like handle it wrong like that. I would get rid of that. Make her so she's strong. She can do all this. But leave it at that. Don't kind of like
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to get it out properly. Like
Don't
kind of like.
it's difficult.
It is quite hard to like say, but
Say
you know what I mean.
consistently what you want, but
Yeah, but like, just like if she's gonna do something like I don't know, pick up on flying the Falcon really quickly, or kind of like, avoid stuff or beat up, like or kind of just like handle herself. Just let her do that. Don't comment on it. Don't make other characters comment on it. Just do it. So I'll keep her as that. I'll keep her as the main role. Obviously, like, I think it's good having that. I'll make her more of like a kind of flawed character. Like she keeps leaning into the dark side because obviously, if you got the Force and that, you don't know what's right or wrong. You don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
I think that's what leads her to train with Luke in the end because she doesn't. She kind of like leans into the dark side, and she doesn't like it because obviously it's evil and that. So she'd be one of those like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think she's going to be flawed in the sense that she's kind of like she leans into the dark side. She doesn't know what to do, and that's kind of like how she, evolves as a character later on in the films. So I would keep her as the same. I wouldn't, but as in storyline wise,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do much change in there apart from what I've said.
With my version of Rey, she's a bounty hunter in my version, a bit more in line with George Lucas's Episode 7,
Right.
where like Rey's this bounty hunter, but here, Finn, to escape the First Order, runs off into the desert, comes across like a Mos Eisley-esque place.
Yeah.
And he's trying to find passage off Jakku. So he goes into this cantina, and that's where we meet Rey's character. Very similar setup to Han's. Here she plays more of the Han archetype. But here, we see more like a scene from The Mandalorian, where she gets into a bit of a bar fight. She gets thrown out.
Yeah.
And Finn somehow gets involved, because he's just kind of there, and they think they're together, so he throws them both out. It's like, oh wow, thanks. It's
Yeah.
like, So now they're like, and then we go to her ship, and her ship's the Falcon. She's already got the Falcon.
All right.
We go on board, and that's where we meet Chewie, who's already with her as well.
Right.
So this isn't explained, and this will be explained later.
When you focus on Han and Chewie.
Yeah, but for now, she's just there with Chewie and the Falcon. She's got them. We don't know how. And so this will be like her progression from this like more Han Solo-esque character, or mixed with a bit of Cassian, have a bit more of that cutthroat nature.
Mhm.
And sorry, Tom, am I boring you?
No.
Okay. And then just like play up that a bit, and then go back to the base, and then we see discover that she's actually a Resistance, like New Republic spy,
Okay. Yeah.
and like that's why she's with Chewie. Chewie's just another
Yeah, yeah.
agent.
Okay.
And then we can have a bit of playoff between her and Poe as well, because then they're both already well established within the Resistance or New Republic.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I think it's important as well that we focus on the main three as well. So I think we should go on to Poe next, because obviously having the main three, but, they're the main characters. So with Poe, how would you handle Poe?
Poe's an interesting one. 'Cause I didn't give him much thought,
Okay.
because he's one of those where, like, even in The Force Awakens himself, they kind of forget he's there for most of the film
Yeah,
until he
yeah.
turns up again, and it's never explained why. So with me, you'll just meet him when you meet Leia and Han.
Okay. So it's just that.
Yeah, so like Han's introduction in my script is they go back to the base, and he's already with Leia.
Right.
They're together. They're actively fighting this like First Order and their son. That they know how bad he's become, so they have actively started fighting him now.
Mhm.
And like there's no redemption arc for Kylo in this. He's just full on like he's a mixture of like he's Palpatine. He's loving being what he is, and he doesn't care.
Yeah.
So like, we have that. We meet Han, then we meet Poe. He's incredibly cocky.
Yeah.
And he's nowhere near as good as he thinks he is at piloting.
Right. Okay.
And this will be reflected because in mine, Poe gets shot down in the final. Like there will be a final like space battle-esque thing, but it won't be on Starkiller Base. 'Cause that's not in my narrative because it just doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
And then like you have that fight, and he gets shot down, and this kind of humbles him a bit for the sequels, where we'll see him come back up and actually become skilled because he
Right, yeah.
actually has to kind of learn how to be a pilot.
Yeah.
Properly, because he's actually seen combat.
Okay. So apart from that, then he's just
He's
in the
basically
background.
in the background for most of it. He's just
Yeah.
he's a side character who stands out a bit more than the rest. 'Cause he's just a
Right.
bit more prevalent within the narrative.
Okay.
So
how would you with Poe?
With Poe, I think sort of similar to Luke's, he's just sort of a Resistance fighter type person. And maybe yeah, he should be a bit more Cassian Andori. There's a lot of things from like character-wise from Rogue One that, and even just ship design and things that I feel like they shouldn't have put in Rogue One. They should have put in Force Awakens, like U-wings.
Yeah.
Instead of having to explain why they're in, like how they're in the original trilogy, why don't you just have them be the ships for the sequels?
Yeah.
And things like that. But I think like the character of Cassian is far more interesting than Poe. So I think
you swap those two out.
yeah, you swap those two
Okay.
around basically.
There would be a lot of like narrative shoveling you'd have to do there because it's a completely different character
Yeah.
dynamic you have to throw in there. But
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what
And also,
difference.
I feel like if in my one Rey's going to be this already Jedi, and Finn's this traumatized stormtrooper, I feel like Poe will be the sort of what Luke was in A New Hope, who's sort of just the farm boy, the sort of normal person who you kind of is the audience's viewpoint
Oh, right.
for
Okay.
the
because
for
you're
the
dealing
trio.
with all these extreme characters.
yeah.
You need the
Yeah,
grounded.
you need the
focal
grounded
point,
sort of just normal person.
All right.
So yeah, so there's just not that much about Poe that
That
you
you
can
j-
really
yeah.
expand on him. He's just sort of the X-wing guy.
So
So
to keep it short with Poe, because I ain't done my
Oh, okay. Shit.
I'm still here.
Cut that.
You might have forgot.
Awkwardly
Yeah.
jump cut.
Cut. And now we're back. All right. That was Jar Jar Red.
Oh, we'll do that. At the
Yeah.
end,
Okay, so with my Poe, I'll keep it short. Like, there's not much you can do with him. I'll just keep him the same because I don't know why, but out of the three, maybe it's just because I just didn't like the other two that much. I liked him the most.
Mm.
So you can put that down to either the fact that Rey and Finn are just bad characters.
Well, I think frankly
Oh.
you're a misogynist and a racist
Oh, of course. No,
because
that would make
your favourite
sense.
character is the white man.
I mean-
secretly, you loved that opening to The Last Jedi. Tom. You loved
Oh,
that
just
mama
seeing that.
joke.
Oh, well,
That mama joke.
yeah, I'm a big fan of Poe. But I'll just keep him the same, really.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we haven't actually discussed like narrative. a
Yeah, I
lot,
think we should, yeah.
So we should probably delve a bit more into the.
Well,
shape
we've
of our
sort
story.
of done the.
We've done the opening. We've done the
so,
setup.
so where does
We
the
cut
film
this bit.
end?
The film end, where because I don't think any of our narratives really include Starkiller Base. Because
No.
I can speak for personal experience here, but hey, camera, I don't believe Starkiller Base is a good idea. Because why would you do that again? Where did it come from? Who knows? So,
Starkiller Base, we just wouldn't. In all three of us.
So-
So we just wouldn't do it.
because
No.
it doesn't make any sense.
No, no.
Completely. Like I don't get like the First Order itself makes very little sense within the narrative of this like Star Wars thing. The Empire crawl off, being defeated brutally at the Battle of Jakku, and then they just turn up
With a big
with a
planet.
big army, a big planet. Like they go Snoke's powerful and rich,
Yeah.
but we never find out why. Like it's
Yeah,
not
it's
like he's
confusing.
secretly a politician.
No,
It's
no.
not like Palpatine. Like they have government funding. That's why the Empire's fucking everywhere.
Now from a word for our sponsor.
Do it. Jar Jarade, the drink that won't subvert expectations.
Welcome back. Let's go on to probably the most controversial element of The Force Awakens,
The whole thing.
the ending.
The end.
Okay, right.
The final act of this film is fraught with problems. So let's start with the beefy one. Do any of us remove Han's death?
No,
No.
Do you?
No.
No. Hand dies.
And dies. That
I
makes
find
the
that
most
funny as
sense.
well because everyone had a problem with that, but
I never
d-
did
didn't you?
because like,
everyone I talked to hated it. I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it. I
didn't hate it.
always I kind of expected it to happen.
I expected
Oh,
it 'cause
sport,
it
it
was
sports for me,
Harrison
so.
Ford.
No, it wasn't spoiled for me, but when it came, it was like, that feels natural.
Just like, eh,
The characters
Fine.
of these
As soon as he stepped on that catwalk, it's like
yeah, he's dead.
he's gone.
So basically, Han Solo dies. Starkiller Base, we including that?
I don't.
I wouldn't. No.
So where do our finales take place then? If they
So
if
for
they
mine,
suck it?
For mine, I would keep it on. I think it'd be an invasion because what I'll do is with the First Order, I'd stick with that. It's the Emperor's contingency plans. They've just kind of like they've been building over years in like the shadows, forming this army. Then it explains why they've got so much stuff.
But it was being
The-
prepared.
The Emperor thought about this all his death because that's one of the comics says this. So I think the ending for me would be the New Republic's been taken over by the First Order, an invasion, whilst they're getting saved on Takodana. Whilst all the resistance are going over there, they've left the New Republic to get invaded. So that's happened. They come back to the new base. No, sorry, the base on that they're stationed in the resistance, and that's invaded. That's where my final acts would take place.
Okay.
What about?
Tom, where does your final act take place?
Mine would just take place on whatever the planet is that the lightsaber is. So that would
Right.
just be either Takodana, but it's not used in the second act part. It's
What
used in
about the
third
ruins
act.
of the Jedi? Like, we go back and we find the ruins of the old Jedi Temple, and then we can
Yeah,
have
you
a
could
few
do that. You
flashbacks
could do
to
that.
that
You
night
could
where
do that,
Kylo's
and then-
storming
and
through the
then,
wall.
Yeah, and Kylo and Rey have to do their fight in all the ruins and things.
Yeah, that's a
You could do-
that's a
you could
nice,
do that.
interesting dynamic set
Yeah,
piece.
yeah, you could do that.
With mine, it's like simply it just that you have the New Republic. On this one, they're on the forefront. They're going to actively try and kill Kylo Ren. So it's more of an assassination mission than anything.
Right, yeah.
But also at the same time, Kylo's coming after them because he's after Finn. Because he's found out like through the narrative at some point that Finn has the Force.
Right.
And he's like, this is a problem because I thought I killed all the Force users besides my uncle, who I'm trying to find. So I've got to go kill Finn. So then they meet at a neutral point. It can be whatever you want. You can bring back an old planet if you really want to, like Endor or whatever. But it doesn't matter where it takes place. Simply the fact that it happens, and the confrontation starts with the Han and basically rip the Han and Kylo scene from the film, and then Han kills Kylo. Kylo kills Han.
Right.
And then Poe sees this, and like there's been like a in fact, like I haven't covered this at all, but it's between Poe and Han. There's more of like a father-son, like he's a surrogate father for him. Maybe his dad died during the Galactic Civil War.
Yeah.
And there's like a bit of like he took him up, and like after Kylo left, he needed someone to like be a surrogate son for him. so to help both of them cope. And then he like goes after him, shoots at him, and gets his ass handed to him and thrown against a wall. This entire film is basically just Poe learning to be a bit more humble, a bit more human, realise he can't win every battle with his blaster or whatever. And then this is where Finn finally decides to like take up the reins effectively, and like Leia hands him Luke's lightsaber.
Okay.
And a fight ensues between Kylo and Kylo and Finn, where Kylo gets defeated, and he realizes there's something going on here. There's something more to this guy. So he gets taken away by like Phasma, who's restraining him. Like he's full of rage. He wants to kill Finn. He wants to go back. He's like, no, come on, we gotta get you out of here. And then that's when we. So, are we ending it? Are we all ending it? How the Force Awakens end, where they go to find Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, they'll find Luke, and then leads into whatever the hell episode 8 is.
Yeah, I think I didn't actually talk about my ending properly then. So, obviously talks about where it take place, but I'm thinking with the actual events that happen. I think you could have that kind of like you got the two things happening at once. You got Leia trying to connect to Luke, whilst the First Order are just invading. It's kind of that race against, is she going to do it, or is Kylo going to kill them all?
Yeah.
And Han Solo's going to die at some point, trying to confront Kylo Ren, telling him, everything he did in the original. Rey is going to try and take him on, starts failing, and this is where she kind of like reaches into the dark side more, kind of wins. Well, not wins, but kind of holds him back enough for Leia to kind of like be finished with it. Yeah. So that's the battle between Rey and Kylo, and she runs off. They all get out, and then they escape. She goes off, kind of like in the Empire Strikes Back, where Luke after Hoth goes to Yoda, and the others carry on.
Yeah.
So that's gonna happen. I think with Finn, I think it's good to keep that kind of rivalry between him and Phasma. Phasma's more of a threat.
Yeah.
So
she's a very idle threat.
Yeah, exactly.
The original Force Awakens is probably one of the bigger problems with it.
Yeah, so she would be a threat. They'd be fighting. He'd have one of his PTSD like symptoms during it. He fails. He's gonna die, but he's rescued by Poe or someone, just to give Poe more screen time and make him more, important. So that happens, and it just ends with the two branching off. Rey going off to Ahch-To, whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Ahch-To. Whilst the Resistance go to, they don't know what to do next. They're just escaping. So yeah, that's where I would leave it.
Okay.
So I think it's quite different. One of our ideas are
they're quite unique perspectives. Realistically, I don't think we're not trying to shit talk the original.
No,
Force
of course
Awakens.
not. I didn't think it was too bad. It just wasn't good.
It wasn't.
I don't hate it, but I don't dislike it.
We have our problems with it, but at the end of the day, none of us could have done any better, really.
No, of course not. But it's quite interesting how like some of the points that we talks about how similar they were as well. So
it's
comedy,
simple cases,
use of comedy just infuriating sometimes in some scenes. Rey being a almighty, all powerful, knows what to do, all that. Poe being bland, Finn being Finn.
Finn, I think the basic problem is the new characters rather than the old ones.
Yeah, which is quite a shame as well, because they're the new characters. We're supposed to,
I wish I could care about these new characters, but with a lot of them, you just don't.
No.
It's a really big problem with them. Like a lot of them, like Kylo's probably the one I've seen the most of, and I enjoy the most of, like his screen presence. But even then, he's half the threat Vader was. And I guess that's the point to an extent, but it doesn't add much more to his character.
No, it's just
he's kind of still just whiny.
Yeah.
And he can be slightly obnoxious, but it's not like terrible.
No.
So really, that was our half-conjointed, awful ramblings on The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
I hope you join us next time.
Yeah.
On the rewrite.
Drink some Jar
Well, hopefully we'll be a bit more happy about it.
Oh, well.
Bugger off, Matt.
Okay.